Hello and welcome to our edition of Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Clarisse Fortuny. Let's start with the headlines. The Sudanese army says Greater Khartoum area is now completely free of rebel forces after a major offensive. But as residents return, they're facing a new threat: unexploded devices scattered across the city. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Washington to meet Donald Trump on Wednesday after months of heightened tensions between the two countries. It comes 1 week after dozens of white South Africans entered the US as refugees, claiming they were racially persecuted. And we'll go to the cinema with a labyrinth of corruption and bad behavior inside contemporary Egypt. At the center of director Tarik Saleh's latest film, Eagles of the Republic, made its debut at the Cannes Film Festival. But we start in Sudan, where the violence showed no signs of abating. Fierce clashes broke out on the outskirts of the capital as the army launched a major offensive aimed at ousting the paramilitary rapid support forces from their remaining strongholds. Following these battles, the Sudanese army says Khartoum is now completely free of rebel forces.
We announced today the complete clearance of the entire Khartoum state from any presence of members of the terrorist militia of the Rapid Support Forces, and the clearance of our national capital from the filth of the rebels and their supporters, stressing that Khartoum state is completely free of rebels.
And back in March, the army celebrated a key military victory after retaking much of Khartoum. Since then, more than 100,000 people have returned to the capital, only to face a new threat. Thousands of shells and other dangerous devices have been discovered across the city. Laurent Berstecher has a story.
2 months after the Sudanese armed forces officially recaptured Khartoum, residents are slowly beginning to return home. But while the fighting has died down, some have found a new threat lurking beneath the rubble, like this former school employee who uncovered a case of unexploded shells hidden under an old cloth.
How could I not be afraid? Every day I find containers filled with ammunition, rockets and other explosives, all in here in this school. All of these things need to be cleared.
Scores of unexploded missiles, as well as entire cases of shells and ammunition left behind by the Rapid Support Forces, now represent a major risk for Khartoum's civilian population. At least 16 people were killed in explosions in recent weeks, and dozens more were severely injured or maimed. And while Sudanese and UN clearance teams have been working around the clock to secure the capital, they say they need more funds and equipment, as well as increased cooperation by local authorities to fully clear the area of explosives.
The problem can be solved, provided that the program is sufficiently funded and supported, but also provided that the government of Sudan, the authorities of Sudan, facilitate the implementation of the action, because they have lots of difficult administrative processes, which is significantly slowing things down.
The UN also warns the issue isn't limited to Khartoum and might even be more severe in other areas where teams haven't yet been able to fully assess the risk.
And Sudan has also accused the United Arab Emirates of carrying out the first direct military strike on Port Sudan this month, escalating tensions between the two nations. Khartoum has since cut diplomatic ties, claiming the UAE is backing the RSF with advanced weapons, allegation the UAE denies. Here's Sudan's ambassador to the UN, Araluf Idris.
In May 4 as well, at least 8 cruise missiles or drones were launched from over the Red Sea, reportedly launched from a UAE military base targeting Sudan. The Red Sea international water and air base has been used for at least 5 hours of concessions to attack Port Sudan airport. So the drone attack on Port Sudan airport and other cities was intended to disrupt and isolate Sudan during these telling times. This UAE strategy includes drone attacks on infrastructure and security institutions aimed at countering the influence of the Red Sea region attacks against Sudan.
And to wrap up our segment on Sudan, on Monday, Sudan's de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan appointed former UN official Kamil Idris as prime minister, a move welcomed by the African Union, which expressed hope it could pave the way forward, restoring constitutional order and democratic governance. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Washington for a high-stakes meeting with Donald Trump on Wednesday, following months of rising tensions between the two nations. The visit comes just a week after 49 white South Africans entered the US as refugees, citing racial persecution. Claims Ramaphosa has strongly denied. The two leaders are expected to tackle a wide range of contentious issues, including South Africa's black economic empowerment laws, farm attacks, Pretoria's case against Israel at the ICJ, and its growing ties with Iran and China. Tom Kennedy has been speaking with South Africans about their hopes for the meeting.
So much has happened between these two countries since Donald Trump took office earlier this year, and many South Africans are worried that Cyril Ramaphosa could be walking into a Volodymyr Zelensky-style embarrassment, especially considering the timing of these white refugees accepted into the US over what Donald Trump has called a genocide. Many South Africans that I've spoken to here have said, considering South Africa's apartheid history, that they want their president to stick at it with this case against Israel in the ICJ out of moral responsibility, while others that I've spoken to have said that South African jobs are more important than foreign policy, jobs that could be lost due to the end of AGOA, the free trade deal between the US and some African countries, and South Africa's close ties with BRICS partners like China and Iran, who were traditional foes of the US. Some are applauding Ramaphosa's decision to bring along John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, the former opposition party of the ANC and now biggest partner in the government of national unity. He has been critical of these Afrikaner so-called refugees for leaving, saying that they've made a mistake. Now it's up to Cyril Ramaphosa and his team to fight against disinformation about South Africa with the truth, all while appeasing a US president who is not afraid to clash heads with foreign leaders.
In Chad, former Prime Minister and opposition leader Sakseh Masra faced the judicial police this morning for the first time. He's accused of fueling ethnic tensions linked to last week's deadly violence in the south. His recent arrest has triggered a wave of political and public outcry. Harold Gerard has the story.
Sakseh Masra's political party, Les Transformateurs, has denounced what it calls a flawed legal process since their leader's arrest last Friday. Other opposition figures have also voiced concern, accusing the regime of becoming increasingly authoritarian.
This is a political trial. The regime wants to eliminate Sakseh Masra from the political landscape entirely. The same strategy will be used against other opponents. It's nothing more, nothing less.
In response, the Minister of Communication and government spokesperson insists that justice is operating independently.
The former prime minister is a citizen like any other. He's not above the law. The executive branch we represent doesn't interfere with the judiciary and has no hidden agenda. Justice is free to handle this case as it sees fit.
Sakseh Masra, a key political figure and a former challenger to Mahamat Idris Deby Itno in the 2024 presidential election, is now facing charges of inciting hatred, encouraging rebellion by armed groups, complicity in murder, arson, and desecration of a grave. Justice suggested that he is behind an armed attack that killed thousands in the southwest of the country, crimes that could carry a life sentence.
Egyptian politics starring at the Cannes Film Festival with Tarik Saleh's latest film. The Swedish-Egyptian director is making waves with Eagles of the Republic, a daring political thriller that takes direct aim at Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The film, which includes real footage of Sisi and even a look-alike, follows a fictional actor forced to star in a state propaganda movie. Shot in Turkey, the film critiques military control over Egypt's film industry and politics.
in Egypt in particular, because 1/3 of the economy is run by the army, you have to be especially careful. So yes, this film is not a satire, unfortunately. Cinema is an act of empathy. For 2 hours, you are someone else. You live someone else's life. And you have to identify with that person, even if that person commits acts that you wouldn't commit. And in that, there is beauty.
It's not just a good film, it's a film that opens doors, that raises the bar for the entire industry that speaks Arabic to get some courage and possibly go down that path stronger than before.
And let's end with a bit of sport, with football and diplomacy teaming up. The Confederation of African Football has signed a major partnership with the European Commission to support upcoming tournaments across the continent. The EU will sponsor the African Schools Football Championship, as well as the 2025 and 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, men's and women's. The deal, signed in Cairo, also marks 25 years since the first EU-African Union summit. Officials say the goal is to boost youth football and strengthen ties between Europe and Africa. Over 33,000 schools are already taking part. And that to conclude our edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you for watching.